Happy Super Bowl Sunday, everyone. What's going on? Good mic work back at you with a special Super Bowl mic drop. Now, we weren't here for a podcast yesterday because I had a really busy day, and I informed you guys over on the community tab on YouTube and on social media that we would have to skip Saturday's podcast because I felt like if I tried to do one, we would have really had to rush it, and I hate rushing videos and podcasts. So what I decided we would do instead is tomorrow night after Raw, we would be up here after the show to do a big podcast catching up on everything we missed. But over the course of the weekend, WWE wound up releasing a pretty big handful of wrestlers. So the plan is still to be here tomorrow night after Raw. We're still going to be here for a podcast to talk about lots of stuff. But I thought it might be nice to give you guys a little mic drop to hold you over in order to give you some thoughts on these releases. So it's currently 1 o'clock in the morning right now. I figured I'd bust out some comments on this and I'll drop it here in the morning ahead of the big game tonight. So whatever your plans may be for Super Bowl this evening, I hope it's a good one. I hope you have a great time. If you don't live here in the States, sorry that we're weird as hell when it comes to our football, but that's the nature of the beast over here. So that is why we're also not going to be here for a watch along tonight, which is our Sunday tradition. But we will be back 1 week from tonight to watch, get a load of this, St. Valentine's Day Massacre. I cannot believe we haven't done this one yet. So we will be here 1 week from tonight, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, to watch Vince McMahon take that hellacious bump off of the black bar steel cage. It was still to this day probably ranks as the gnarliest bump, table bump anyway, that I have ever seen. So we will be here 1 week from tonight watching that. Some quick comments on the slew of WWE releases that we've learned about over the past couple of days, because it's really unfortunate. As fans, we never like to see this, but at the same time, we have all been through this before, and it's something that is an annual thing in WWE. Sometimes it's a spring cleaning deal after WrestleMania, as was the case for so many years. But you never really know when these releases are coming, and when they come, they usually come in chunks. It's very rare where you just get one random person release. So WWE has trimmed a little bit of fat here. And of course, some of these releases are perfectly understandable, and some of them leave you scratching your head a little bit. But that is the case with every one of these type of release days. Whenever WWE lets go a bunch of talent, you always have fans very upset. Maybe some of these were their favorites, or maybe they wanted to see these wrestlers get better opportunities. Everybody that WWE released over the weekend are quality professional wrestlers, and none of them should struggle to find work elsewhere. However, it is sad to see them get released by the biggest wrestling company in the world. Now, when you go back in time, how many times have we been through these type of releases? A lot of times. And just a few years ago, it got really bad. You know, WWE during COVID released half the fucking roster. And there have been other instances in the past where they've released a lot of talent, and a lot of the talent fans felt like could have had much bigger success in WWE. So when it comes to chunks of talent that are released, and you look at all of the big chunks that we've experienced over the past decade plus, this one is probably around the most understandable group of releases. You know, just trying to play devil's advocate here, because you would have thought the sky was falling on social media with some of these releases. And I'm like, do fans not pay attention? Are they not watching the same thing that the rest of us are? Because this is something as fans and as pro wrestlers that we all need to understand happens. Releases are just a part of the business. It's the game they're playing. This is what happens in wrestling. So it's never fun. Sure, you can be upset and frustrated why somebody may or may not have gotten released, but at the end of the day, you can't pretend that it's the craziest thing in the world. Releases happen. So let's talk about who was released over the weekend. I think the first big name that came out was Cedric Alexander, and I think every single fan had the exact same thought when they saw that news. He would fit well in any syndicate. So if he wanted to jump over to AEW and join the Hurt Syndicate and put that group back together intact the same way it was in WWE, that would be a great option for him. However, he is married to Big Swole, correct? And Big Swole had kind of a rough time in AEW and there was some controversy there. So I don't know how everybody's feelings are on that now. I don't know if AEW is not going to be an option for Cedric because of that, or if he is a pro wrestler and he's looking to get work, they want to bring him in. I'm sure a lot of people in AEW are going to be advocating for his signing, specifically in the Hurt Syndicate. So I'm hoping that whatever issues went on with AEW and Big Swole, that it's not going to affect maybe Cedric coming in, because he's definitely somebody I would bring in. The only other name of all of these releases that I would bring in if I'm sitting in Tony Khan's yacht, where he lives apparently, and I'm wearing his shoes, and I've got the pencil, and I'm making all the decisions in AEW, then I'm also going to bring in Isla Dawn. Didn't really know much about her and Melba Toast. You know, when they first changed their names and brought them up and made them a tag team, they beat Jade and Bianca and whatever. And I always liked Kaylee Ray, but this Alba Fire shit, I just thought the names were silly. They were dumb. But once I started seeing Isla Dawn, you know, in interviews backstage and just seeing her personality and just her vibe and her energy, she is so much more entertaining to me than someone like the Iconics. You know, the Iconics have got a lot of fans. Billy Kay and Peyton Royce, they did great when they were in WWE. They were entertaining. But for me, not everybody, just me, they were borderlining on the obnoxious level. Like, they were funny at times, but I much prefer Harley Cameron, you know, if that makes any sense. So the Iconics had their moments, but they were just a little bit too obnoxious for me. I'm not calling them not obnoxious women. It's not an insult. I'm just saying for my taste, some of their antics were only mildly funny, where Isla Dawn has got like a different type of subtlety to her, where I really thought she could be fun in the right role, with the right push, working with the right opponent. And I thought WWE should always keep an eye on her and think about her when it comes to, okay, who can we move up to the next level? I saw great things in her. I saw a lot of potential. I really liked her, and I enjoyed when I saw her on television. So if I'm Tony Khan, I'm absolutely bringing in Cedric to put together that faction, and I'm going to bring in Isla Dawn. You know, when you think about like what Harley Cameron is doing right now in AEW, how she is on the verge of a great push because of how hilarious she is and how entertaining she is, I think Isla Dawn could play into that. You get her in the mix there, you put her and Harley together, that could be quality TV. So if I'm Tony Khan, those are probably the only two names I'm looking at. I don't think I would really touch anyone else, at least right now. At least right now. Doesn't mean they can't bring them in, but it's just like, you know, you don't want to get in the habit of signing everybody that WWE releases. If they're going to release 10 people, pick up 2 of them. 3 at the most, that's it. You already got a huge swelled up roster. You don't want to make it worse, but there are some talents that you absolutely can't pass up on. Doesn't matter how big your roster is. They don't need so-and-so. If you've got a talent there that's worth taking and WWE is dumb enough to release, or vice versa. So those are the 2 I would really bring in, but nobody else, at least right now. Here are the other names that WWE released. Giovanni Vinci. That's an interesting one, because after they broke up Imperium, Ludwig went on his own along with Gunther, and then they were going to repackage Giovanni Vinci as a SmackDown star, and they ran vignettes for him, and then they debuted him, and he had a more embarrassing debut on the main roster than Karrion Kross did when he lost to Jeff Hardy in 5 seconds wearing a dominatrix outfit. So the fact that Giovanni was let go, you can't really be surprised, but you have to wonder what the hell was going on in WWE's head. They split him off from his faction, they repackage him, they spend money and time and energy in creating this character for him, releasing vignettes, then they debut him for him to lose. Then he comes out the next week and he loses again. 2 straight weeks to Apollo Crews. Then he was regulated to just some backstage segments, I think, and we haven't seen him in the ring since. And now WWE cut him. So this seems like one that's on WWE. Giovanni was already, let go once before and brought back, correct? Wasn't he? At least I think he was. And now they've let him go again. I don't even know why they broke up the trio of Imperium. If Kaiser is still hanging around with Gunther, what was the point of breaking them up? Did they see singles potential in Giovanni? And so that's why they wanted to move him on to something else? It's a shame, and it really wasn't Giovanni's fault. You know, he wasn't even given a chance. He didn't even get out of the blocks. Couple of tag teams got let go. The Good Brothers. I've lost track of how many times Festus has been in and out of WWE. I've completely lost track. So they are gone now. Carl Anderson apparently is still injured, so he's been dealing with that. But when they brought him back in, it was kind of surprising. I think maybe they brought him back in as a favor to AJ. You know, nothing really stuck with them. They had a couple of stints with the tag titles, I think, in their first run, and then let go, then brought back. They made some AEW appearances, some TNA appearances, right? I think they went back to Japan, maybe. I forget the career trajectory of the Good Brothers after their initial WWE release. Then they came back, but they never really did a whole lot. I can't think of really many matches at all during this most recent stint of the Good Brothers in WWE. So I don't have much of a memory of them. So I can understand them being let go. Even if they were healthy, I don't know where they would fit in, you know, to the tag team scene in, you know, current 2025 WWE. So I can understand that. I think Gallows and Anderson are a good tag team. They're fun. They're entertaining, but you know, it's just pointless for them to be in WWE. So they'll turn up somewhere else. We'll see them probably before the year's out when they're both healthy, and hopefully they can still, you know, have a little bit of a run here before things wind down for them. Another tag team that was let go was the AOP, Authors of Pain, Razor and Akam. And along with Authors of Pain, their manager, the legendary Paul Ellering, also let go. They formed the Final Testament faction, which I never really liked, with Karrion Kross. Even though I think Karrion Kross is doing pretty good work now, I never really was a fan of that faction. You know, Scarlett and Kross, you know, Kross is talking a lot more now, and he seems to be taking on this like manipulative type of direction with his character. I don't know how you would work in Ellering in the AOP with something like that. So they chose just to straight up release them. So hopefully they will all continue to work. Ellering is getting older now. He's got to be nearing 80 by this point, I would think. So the fact that he's still out there doing stuff, I'm surprised that WWE would let go a legend of that stature, you know, not just to, you know, keep him around to be nice. I don't know. But we'll see if they turn up anywhere else. But it felt like the AOP came back and then they were just not used forever. And then finally they debut, they have a few matches, and then it just kind of fizzles out and they're gone. So Authors of Pain no longer in WWE. Best of luck to both of them. I was happy when they got brought back because I always thought they were a good looking team. We used to fantasy book the shit out of the AOP back in the day. Remember when we had them, you know, forming their own Shield and joining up with Roman or Samoa Joe or all these crazy ideas we had for the AOP? And nothing really panned out. They did form a faction, but it just did a whole lot of nothing. So it's a release that you can understand. Probably the most heartbreaking one, along with Isla Dawn, I think, is Sonia Deville. Sonia Deville, currently a member of an on-screen faction right now on the main roster on Monday Night Raw, a faction that I've been making fun of because it's a stupid-ass name, Pure Smoothie Collection or whatever the fuck it is. So they've got their faction, but it really, you know, hasn't been doing anything for me. You got three badass women there. I don't know whose fault this is, if they're just not connecting or if WWE isn't, you know, kind of utilizing their push in the creative direction properly. I don't know. But when you put three badass women who can legit fight and are tough, how aren't they tearing through everybody? How are they not demolishing women left and right? And Sonia Deville's in-ring work has come under criticism in the last year or two, you know, since she came back from all of her turmoil. And that poor woman went through hell with that stalker, that guy that broke into her house, you know, and had planned to kidnap her, tie her up, kill her, and bury her. And luckily, she was able to get out of Dodge when he was just, 4 feet away from her in her kitchen in the middle of the night. You know, and that did a number on her. You know, she had to go through the whole court process to watch that fucker go in jail. And WWE was very supportive, but she was out for a long time. You have to wonder what that did, what kind of toll that took on her mentally. I think she really, really struggled with that ordeal. I would. You know, that's a life-changing type of thing that will keep you up at night and give you nightmares and stuff. So Sonya's focus not being 1,000,000,000% on wrestling, I'm not going to fault her for that. But I did recognize some of the issues in the ring. I saw them. They were there. They were visible. Again, I don't know What WWE's reason for this release, or all of these releases for that matter, a lot of times back in the day we would hear it was budget cuts and all these flimsy, stupid excuses. You didn't get any excuses this time, and I'm actually fine with that. WWE doesn't owe us one. Neither does AEW. If management or whoever decides to release talent, wrestling fans need to understand that that is a part of the business. You know, the wrestlers certainly understand that. And today was no different than any other times that wrestlers are released, because their peers and their mates in the locker room were all tweeting their support. Best of luck. Some of them were cracking jokes. And it should be noted too, last week that Duke Hudson, right, was also let go by the WWE. And he released a great video addressing this, where he's basically interviewing himself. So what I've observed when these releases take place is the wrestlers tend to handle it way better than the fans do. And one thing that I thought was funny and excruciatingly predictable, especially that one really, really special app, you know the one. And all of a sudden, like when you combine all of the releases of the weekend with the ending that we saw Friday night on SmackDown with Solo Sikoa attacking Cody Rhodes, and now the fans think that's going to be the WrestleMania main event or something. And so you combine that kind of underwhelming finish to SmackDown with Solo being brought back. I just think it's a vehicle to get him and Jacob in a Mania program is all. And they saw that, and you combine that with the news of all of these releases, and all of a sudden, the Triple H era is over, and WWE is going to be out of business by fucking June. Like, must we do this every time? Must every wrestling fan's opinion be turned up to 11? Is any wrestling fan out there, besides all of you who watch this channel, are any of them capable of like a rational thought? Or must everything be worst case scenario, sky is falling? You know, and because WWE did what they do every single year, that means, oh, Triple H has fumbled it and all this stuff. I'm like, it's WrestleMania season. It's going to be huge. We're going to forget about these releases in 3 days. The business keeps moving. Everything keeps trucking, keeps moving. But man, if you would have taken a look at social media, or you can look at it right now, and you see the criticisms and the hate and everything being flung at Triple H and the fans just, you know, all mad. I'm like, do you guys not follow wrestling? Isn't this what we go through every year? Yes, you're going to get some releases that just fucking suck. It sucks. You're angry for yourself for not being able to see these talents anymore. You're disappointed for them. You feel bad for them. Lots of emotion, right? There are plenty of times to have that. But also you have to understand that if you're going to get yourself all fired up over this and get your panties all tangled, you're going to go through it again in a few months when they release 10 more people. So you just have to think about like when these releases happen and how the community reacts. Isn't it the same every time? Fans are always the same. I understand that you want to be angry for these wrestlers. I understand that, but it's not your job to go and run and tell WWE what they did wrong. You know, there's a lot more that goes into this other than, why'd they release them? I don't get it. I'm like, you're not supposed to get it. It's not for you to get. That's for them to get. That's backstage. We watch what's on camera. You know, yes, the backstage gossip stuff is juicy when talent gets released, especially good talent. You do sometimes wonder why, but we've been through this so many times that nothing should be shocking to you. There should be no WWE release that shocks you. Think about the releases that we've seen. And we've seen way more shocking releases than this current crop that we learned about this weekend. Cedric and Isla and the Good Brothers and the AOP and Giovanni and Sonya, we love them all. Great workers, great talent, especially old man Ellering there. Wish them nothing but the best. But it's not productive to just be pissed and say, I'm going to use this to make myself mad. You know, and when you look at these names, even though you're sad for them, there's not a name on there that's really making me go like, what the fuck are they thinking? I'm a little disappointed about Isla Dawn. I think they missed an opportunity there with somebody who has great talent. But like I've always said about WWE, doesn't matter who they release. Even if they released Cody, even if they released Roman Reigns, they would still be WWE. That's how strong that machine is. They release Roman Reigns and he goes over to AEW. Great. He's going to give AEW a big boost. And they will remain the number 2 wrestling promotion in the world. They might be a little bit less of a number 2, but they're still going to be number 2 and a distant number 2. So WWE is to the point where it doesn't matter who they release. And when you have talent across 3 brands, plus a bunch of recruits, plus a bunch of prospects, plus people you're looking at internationally, plus you got a partnership with TNA, sometimes you got to just, and that's all they did here. So I share everybody's sadness watching good talent, deserving talent, lose their current jobs. But they haven't lost their livelihoods. All of them can get bookings. I'm thinking that most of these talents are going to have 90-day. I know Isla does because she put that in her tweet. The only one that won't, however, is probably Sonia Deville, because Sonia Deville was not released. Sonia Deville's contract is not going to be renewed, and it's reportedly up in several weeks. We might see her somewhere else in less than a month. I would maybe let Sonya hit the indies, just build up her reputation a little bit. I think she'd be lost in the shuffle in AEW. I don't know what she would offer in AEW. They already have, an ass kicker. They got Marina Shafir there, and she's pretty believable. And even though Sonya can fight, that puts your hair up and square up shit, she doesn't look as nearly as badass as Marina Shafir. So maybe Sonya, hits the indies and, kind of reinvents herself a little bit, gets some traction, gets noticed, and then, either Triple H or Tony Khan then realizes, and then it's a race to see which one can pick her up. But it's all about what Sonya wants to do. Maybe if she's going to venture into other things, if she's going to step away from wrestling, or if she's going to really get down to it and say, I'm going to use this release as an opportunity, to change the perception, the fans' perception of me, and to reinvent myself as a pro wrestling character. And I like it when talent does that. Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre are in the spots they are right now because of that very thing. So any of these talents can achieve the same thing. Anybody can when they're released. So all the best to the releases in WWE. Can't wait to see where some of them turn up. And hopefully we will not hear about too many more. It is now late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Hopefully WWE won't be releasing anybody on Super Bowl Sunday. That would be kind of shitty. So hopefully that'll do it for the releases. And if we do get any more, we will be talking about that on Monday night. Enjoy the game tonight if you live here in the U.S. or if you even care about football. Feel free to drop your predictions in the comments. I'm going to be over at my sister's house, and I'm going to be inside of a Kansas City Chiefs home. Everything is Chiefs in there. I've been there for the last 2 Super Bowls, and the Chiefs won, so I'm kind of their good luck charm. So I have no choice but to root for them to three-peat. I think it would be cool if they three-peated because it's never been done. But I'm not convinced they're going to smash Philly. I think that team's very tough, and the Eagles have just as good a chance to walk out of there with the trophy as the Chiefs do. So enjoy the game tonight. Don't get too drunk, and I'll be catching y'all tomorrow after Raw.